Hi folks, a lot of you mentioned in your videos this week that you were using the colored pencils that I was able to send home with you and that you were enjoying them, and I am so happy, so excited about that. Last Friday in class we went over some techniques for how to use those colored pencils really effectively, but I know for different reasons a lot of you weren't able to make it, so I wanted to make a video showing you what we went over so that you can use those colored pencils in a really satisfying way at home. So I'm going to flip my camera around and we're going to get started. Hope you don't get motion sick. Here we go. Ah, the Scumbling. Okay, so luckily, since I've done this a couple times with different students who did come to class, I have an example to show you. Let me just see if I can get this to focus a little bit better. That's as good as it gets, I guess. So I used to teach this the way we did watercolor techniques, where it was kind of different squares and we were using different techniques in the squares, and I just had a brainwave that I think I could help you understand how to use these in your artwork a little bit better if we kind of created a little picture with them as we were learning. So I'm going to show you 5 techniques today. We're going to learn about solid coloring. We're going to learn about layering. We're going to learn how to do a gradient with colored pencil. We're going to learn some blending, and then we're going to learn something really cool called optical mixing. So you're going to need blank paper. I recommend not doing this in your artist journal since it's just a practice, but if that's the only paper you've got, go for it. And you're going to need a red pencil, both of your greens, the light green and the dark green, a sky blue, and a yellow. So the primaries and both greens that you have. And I'm going to get mine. And while I get mine, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about colored pencils and why the ones I sent home are better than other ones. So I'll give that a little place to focus. My colored pencils are in a big roll up that can hold a whole bunch because I have quite a lot at this point. I actually gave some away and I still have a lot. So the colored pencils I'm going to use today are Prismacolors, which are actually, I have really nice colored pencils and the not so nice ones I use for sketching, and these are my medium ones. They're pretty good. So I'm going to grab a yellow. I'm going to make sure it's not neon this time. Neon has a whole different effect. That's not what I want. So what makes Prismacolors better than other colored pencils is that they have higher quality control, and I'll show you what that means and you know how that affects the pencil. And then they have a different composition. They're made of different stuff than other colored pencils. So colored pencils that I would say are like crummy and not worth the money at all are like Rose Art, Prang, well, maybe Prang. Prang's kind of on the line. Rose Art, like Colorworks, Crazy Color. Though when you get like a big art kit that has like 50 shades of paint and 50 colored pencils and drawing pencils, usually the quality of those art supplies is very low. It would be better to buy something smaller and higher quality. It's going to make you happier. So what are good colored pencils? Crayola are pretty good quality, and then if you have just a little bit more, Prismacolor is where we start getting into kind of artist quality colored pencils, what we want to be using when we're making finished artworks. So now I'll explain why. What I mean when I say they have really good quality control is like with our drawing pencils at the beginning of the year. There is someone who works at Prismacolor who makes sure that the core of your colored pencil is centered. So when you sharpen it, it's not going to be wood on one side and color on the other side. It's going to be color in the middle every time. So you're paying for that. They glue the core all the way along the pencil, so that helps it not pop out when you're coloring. Although you might have noticed some of my colored pencils have tape on the backs because that can still happen. So you're paying for that as well. And then the thing that makes them really nice and really worth the money, in my opinion, is they have good wax in the colored pencil. So we have the pigment, which gives us the color, and the wax is what allows it to blend when you lay it down. So that wax warms up and gets soft and blends really nicely with the colors next to it, and that's what makes these so good to color with. That soft wax, you know, lets you fill up the tooth in your paper, it lets you blend really nicely. And we're gonna see how that works a little bit today. Some of you tried blending with your colored pencil and adding water to it, and if we had been using watercolor pencils, that would have worked really well. But these are not watercolor pencils. Watercolor pencils have a water-soluble binder, and that just means instead of wax, they have gum arabic or something that when you put water in it breaks down and it dissolves and it allows them to blend. Wax resists water, so you could actually do a resist in your watercolor painting with a colored pencil if it's a Prismacolor, because it has that wax in it. There are also oil-based colored pencils. Those are the, you know, really, really expensive, kind of high-end ones. But you can get very beautiful colors and very, very good blending with those if you decide that you love colored pencil and want to take that further. This is a great place for us to start today. So this is my special Prismacolor colored pencil sharpener, and what makes it special is it will make the lead really long so that when I am coloring, I can contact the paper. Oh, there are my dogs. I can contact the paper with a lot of the lead and get really smooth coloring instead of always having like scritchy, scratchy lines. So let's get started on our drawing. And I'll just put this here so we can kind of have an idea of where we're going. Just start with a rectangle on your paper, and you can see I did not use a ruler to draw that rectangle. Like, it's not necessary, it's overkill. If we were in class, I'd probably make you do it so we'd practice our ruler skills, but you know, we maybe don't all have rulers at home, so we're just gonna freehand it. So I've got my rectangle, and if I'm feeling really diligent as a student, I'm gonna label this colored pencil techniques to help myself remember. And then I'm going to draw my picture. So I'm going to start with a tree, and I'm going to make it big right up front because we're going to use what we learned about atmospheric perspective way back in the day for this one. And instead of making my tree like a cloud or a broccoli, kind of like we would do when we were little, I'm just going to make like a zigzag because I think that looks a little more natural to what a tree actually looks like. Not totally natural, but a little. So I've only drawn two lines here. I did a straight and a zigzag that kind of curves. Now I'm going to do two curved lines. They're going to be smooth, okay? And those are going to be our hills in front. Then I'm going to do another curved line like a rainbow. That's going to be our hill in the back. And then just a little circle up in the corner. And we're ready to go. And since this is a video through the magic of television, you can pause if you need to. So, what we're going to do now is start our coloring. I'm going to take my yellow, and over here with the sun, I'm going to color just like I would with a coloring book. I'm trying to fill this in nice and solid. And what we're trying to do differently than we may have done when we were young coloring in coloring books is we're trying to fill this sun up so that none of the white is showing anymore. And there are a couple little tips I can give you to help you do that really well. One is to hold your pencil, don't hold your pencil up by the point, hold it further back because that will let you hold it at an angle where as much of the lead as possible is contacting the paper. Just going to give you a smoother effect. The other tip is to use our old friend, our old shading method, Scumbling. Hopefully you remember that that means we're going in little circles when we're shading. So instead of going straight up and down and back and forth, which gives us nice zigzag lines, we're going to go at a low angle to the paper. We're going to go in little circles, and that's really going to push that soft wax down into the paper and get us a nice solid color. All right, Well, hopefully now we have a nice colored in sun, and if we don't, just pause the video and press start again when you do. Oops. So I wasn't paying attention and I used the other side of my special pencil sharpener. And you can see just exactly how much lead this will give me. As you can imagine, it's a bit hard to color with it like this without breaking my pencil, but I'm gonna try. So because these are notes, not just a picture, I'm gonna label this solid coloring, so that if Miss Eden told me in my feedback that I did a really great job with my solid coloring, I would know which part she was talking about. And if Miss Eden said I need to work on my solid coloring, I would know what to do or what to focus on. So next we're going to do a gradient, and hopefully we remember from back in the day that a gradient goes from dark to light. It's like ombre. So I'm going to turn, because I'm left-handed, I'm going to turn my paper this way so that my left hand is on the side where my hills start. If you're right-handed, you want to do the opposite, okay? So we're going to shade just lightly. I'm not pressing hard at all, especially because my lead is so long right now. And I'm just going to be filling in like a coloring book. Hopefully we're pretty good with our fractions. We're gonna go about 2/3 of the way up. Or you know what, we could get fancy. Let's get fancy. We're gonna go in a circle around the sun, okay? We're gonna leave it a nice big white space around that sun like this. We're gonna get even fancier than the practice drawing that I showed you. And we want that space, we don't want it to be an oval because the sun is spherical, not ovoid. I mean, probably some scientist somewhere will watch this and be like, actually, the sun is an ovoid prism. And I'm like, okay, you win. You're right. If it is an ovoid prism, won't you tell me in the comments, person with a PhD in physics? All right. So I've, without too much pressure, just sort of lightly colored around the sun. So now I'm going to go back in and go just about 1/3 of the way coloring again. And again, I'm not pressing hard. I don't have to. You know, that soft wax just blends so easily. You don't have to press very hard, and that tooth of the paper is getting filled up. I don't want to break my lead. I don't want to color so hard and so fast that the friction heats up my paper and it expands. And then when it cools off, it gets all ripply and shiny, like can happen when we're shading with pencil. See, there's physics and art right there. Came to the right channel, person with a PhD in physics. You know what? I made it a lot longer than I thought I would. My rage snapped my pencil. So I'm not going all the way with this because we want to go dark to light, right? And I'm just letting the layers build up that darkness. And I'm noticing that my light area is like way wider over here than it is over here. So I'm gonna go back over and fix that. This is a great time, you know, to just like talk to your dog, talk to your best friend when you're just shading. You know, it's pretty easy to shade and talk at the same time. If you were trying to do observational drawing, I'd be like, no way, Jose, you gotta focus. Talking is gonna make that really tough. All right. So you might be like, Ms. Eden, this doesn't look so great. So now we're gonna kind of smooth things out a little bit. I'm gonna let myself get a little closer to the sun. Because you know, I mean, the sun is a nuclear explosion, but it's like a very far away nuclear explosion. So, or is it an implosion? I think it's an implosion. But anyway, it's really far away, so it's probably not that bright. I don't know why I'm like so many physics topics are coming up today. So I'm still using my Scumbling. I'm going in little small circles, and I'm not pressing very hard. So the next thing I'm going to do to kind of smooth this out is I'm going to go back over where this transitions with little circles so it's not such a hard line. And it's going to take, you know, a couple passes, and that's okay. Good art takes time. And if you're sitting at home being like, oh, Miss Eden, mine doesn't look like yours, I'll just say a couple things. One, I have lots of practice. And two, you're you and I'm me. Yours is going to look like yours and mine's going to look like mine, and that's the way it should be. So that's how we got fancy. This is kind of neat. We kind of used our gradient to make it look like the sun is actually shining and it's giving off some light. Hopefully you remember the word for the darkness or lightness of the color. I'll let you shout it here, Dora style, Blue's Clues style. That's right. Good job. It's value. So we used what we know about value to create the idea that the sun is actually shining up here. So now let's color some hills. Oh, but we should label this first. We're being diligent students. Hi, Darby. This is called a gradient. Going dark to light. Okay. And if you are like, Mazine, that's too complicated, doing a gradient and going in a circle, we would call this a radial gradient. It radiates from the sun. Like a radial tire is round. You could just do your gradient, you know, dark to light, dark to light. I just think it's kind of neat to do it radial here because it adds to the sense that the sun is shining in this picture. If I really wanted to strengthen that, I wouldn't have outlined it in pen, but we're learning. Okay, so now I'm going to take my darker green. Let me think about that for a second. No, I'm going to take my lighter green and I'm going to work on this hill only, not all the hills, okay? I'm going to turn my paper again because I don't know if you remember all the way back to when we were learning about shading. If I'm coloring this way, I only get the rotation of my wrist, right? And I'm going to back up a little bit for this reminder. You can see my socks and pajamas. I'm very professional. All right. If I'm coloring this way, I only get the rotation of my wrist. If I can turn it, I can have the rotation of my wrist. I can have the rotation of my elbow, and I can have the pull of my shoulder. And for really good coloring, really good shading, pulling from our shoulders on often what we want to do. In this case, my wrist will work well enough, but it's still more comfortable for me to shade it with it in this position. If I was shading a really big piece of paper, I would definitely want to be able to pull from my shoulder. All right. So I've just, you know, coloring book style, filled in this one little hill, and I was not pressing hard because I don't want the tooth of the paper to be totally full yet. I want it to have room to take more color. So now I'm going to bring in my blue colored pencil, and you might be like, what? Unless you are a smarty and you remember when we learned about atmospheric perspective. And we said when things get further away from us, they get what? Gosh, you're smart. They get smaller, they get less detailed, and they look more blue because those other frequencies of light are being knocked out by the atmosphere. So we're going to color over our hill with blue. And that is going to make that hill look like it's behind the other hills and a little bit further away. Uh-oh, I've got the wobbly camera problem, don't I? Thought I had solved it. And I'm not, you know, I'm going over the lines here sometimes. That's okay. We're human. So now we have done, I'm a little bit out of room here, but I'm just going to cross over this hill, I guess. Now we've done layering. We put one color over another to create a new color. We went from a green to a blue-green. Hopefully we're remembering our color theory. At this point we have analogous colors, right? We have yellow in the sky. Yellow is analogous to green. We got blue and blue-green, which are right next to each other. That primary and tertiary color. Sandwiched in between the green. So now we're gonna keep with those analogous colors because those are really great for blending and creating smooth effects. I'm gonna take my yellow, my light green, and my dark green. I'm gonna turn my page again to make it comfortable for me to color because we know, machine makes us color and shade so much that when you've been shading a long time, your hand starts hurting. It's hard work. So if we can turn our page and make it a little bit more comfortable, that's good for us. So I'm just gonna color with my yellow about 1/3 of the way down my hill. And I'm gonna do the same thing over here. I'm gonna try and kind of avoid going inside my tree so that it stays nice for later. And I'm noticing there's this little piece where there should be trunk there. That's gonna help my drawing look a little bit more natural. Because this isn't realistic. This is kind of, you know, cartoony, a little bit Simpsons. But we can make it a bit naturalistic, even if it's not realistic. So then I'm gonna switch to my light green. And I'm gonna color the next third, and you see I'm letting the yellow and the green overlap, and I'm not coloring very hard at this point. I don't want that. That's not gonna help me get a smooth blend. Patience is gonna help me get a smooth blend, and sandwiches are gonna help me get a smooth blend. And you'll be like, Miss Eden, what are you talking about? Sandwiches. And I would ask you, what is your favorite kind of sandwich? There is a place in our town, it's a new sandwich shop called, well, I'm living in Chico, so it's my town, called a Redwood Sandwich Company. And they have a really good sandwich. They have a couple really good sandwiches. We like the meatball sandwich. It has meatballs and marinara sauce and provolone cheese on it, all hot and melty. And there is a sandwich that has steak and blue cheese on it, and I really like blue cheese, even though some people don't. Now I'm gonna switch to my darker green color, and you guessed it, I'm gonna fill in that bottom blank area, and I'm gonna let it overlap my lighter green. I know that your dark green isn't the same color as mine. That's okay, still gonna work out. The other sandwich that I like to have, back to sandwiches, they're very important, from Redwood Sandwich Company, is, I think it's an Italian. They think it's a number 11. It's got like salami on it, capicola ham, cheese. They make their own pickles, and the pickles are on there. It's really, really good. I recommend it if you go there. I get it on rye bread because I like rye bread. They also have pretty bomb mac and cheese. So now, hopefully you're really hungry because I've been talking about sandwiches. You're gonna be like, that looks okay, but it doesn't look like this yet. So this is where we make it look like this. And this is where the sandwiches come in. Good coloring with colored pencil, good layering, good blending is a process. It requires more than one layer, and it requires patience. You're not going as hard as you can right away. You're using a gentle pressure. So now we're gonna go back over our yellow. A little bit more pressure than I had last time, but not a lot. You know, I'm not breaking my lead. I wouldn't pop a balloon if I was coloring on it, but I would probably be hearing it squeak a lot. Or before, it would have just been whispering at me. I don't know how to make a balloon squeaking noise, so you'll just have to imagine it. Maybe I can get a sound effect for this video. Alright, so the top is already looking more solid for us, but these hills aren't dead. They're green and alive, like that one back there. So we're coming back in, and this is the sandwich part, right? I had yellow. That was my first bread. Then I had green. Then I came back with my yellow for my second bread. So all the edges are sandwiched up, okay? So we're gonna sandwich. I'm gonna make this green stronger. And you see I'm just kind of going back and forth. I kind of go back and forth to fill up the area, and then I go back in with my Scumbling to finish off, make it look really nice. And I'm gonna go up into that green area, or that yellow area, and bring more green into it. And if you can see, you know, if it looks kind of pebbly up close, you know, you're seeing a little bit of yellow through the green, it doesn't look perfectly smooth, that's okay. We're just trying to get the tooth of the paper full. If you're still seeing white, that's a problem, but if you're seeing yellow, it's okay. Just remember, artwork only has to look good from 3 feet away. So you hold it out at the end of your arm and you're like, it looks pretty nice. And that means you've done a good job. So same thing on the other hill. I'm gonna fill that in, make that sandwich, put that lettuce on. Do you guys like lettuce on your sandwiches? I do. My husband feels like that's what makes a sandwich really special. Like someone really cared about it, really took the time to do a good job for you if they put lettuce on your sandwich. So of course, I always put lettuce on the sandwiches. Very easy. Easy way to make them feel appreciated. Okay. Dark green, down at the bottom. And he's sitting here thinking, you haven't made me a sandwich in a while. And I gotta be honest, that's true. Last sandwich. I'm gonna fill up this bottom corner with this dark green. And I'll be honest with you, I wish I had chosen a less neutral green. But, you know, hindsight's 20/20, it's gonna be fine. And we're almost done. I know your hands must be starting to get tired at this point. Mine are warmed up and let me know, like, okay, we haven't done this much coloring in a while. What a shame. And then just like I did with the light green, I'm just gonna scumble up into the next section a little bit. And the smaller my scumbling is, the smoother this is gonna look. Okay. It just gives us a nice smooth transition. It helps the hills feel a little bit more round. Keeps us from having stripes. And you might even want to go in with your darker green and shade a little bit in that area between the hills. So it's casting a shadow. And you know what, I just remembered. I did this last time and totally forgot. With the sun here, it wouldn't be casting a shadow there. So maybe you don't want to do that. No. Bad job, Miss Eden. See, we all make mistakes. Just make it work. Could do like that. Alright. And I still see them white at my bottom area. So now I really am gonna, like, I would be popping the balloon. Pretty sure. Now you can see chunks of my pencil are coming off, but the more I can get into that bottom area, the more contrast I'm gonna have, right? We said contrast was the difference between two elements, and right now, or the difference in the way you use the elements. So right now we're working with value, right? Where our hue is green, yellow, green. But by getting this really dark and then the top of the hill being light with that yellow, it's really gonna make this super strong sense that this is three-dimensional, it's round, it's going up and away from us. And then, I mean, you could just keep going forever, really, back and forth, making your sandwiches, making this color richer and smoother, until little chunks of your, either you'll make a hole in your paper, depending on how good your paper is, or little chunks of your pencil will just start like sitting on top of the paper, and that means the paper's tooth is full and you can't do any more with that drawing. You just gotta go get a new piece of paper. Alright, so those hills are looking pretty nice to me. I think this is my best one yet, as it should be, right? This is my third practice. Now we're ready for the tree. The tree is going to blow your mind. So we're gonna label this. This is blending. In all of the kind of color changes that we've done so far, we've been using analogous colors to get a really nice smooth blend. And we've been putting colors on top of each other to create a new color. The tree is going to be different. You don't want to go out, rush ahead on the tree. We're going to use complementary colors. We're going to use red. And do you remember what's complementary to red? You guys are such good listeners. That's right. It's green. Red's primary, green's secondary. And we're going to do your very favorite shading technique. Ooh, stippling. You know I was lying, didn't you? So we're going to work just in the tree trunk right now. And we're going to stipple the heck out of that tree trunk with our red. And we're trying to make it about half full of red. So we want some white spots showing. You're going to irritate your dog, irritate your parents, irritate your sister, irritate your brother, your grandma, abuelita. It's going to look like this tree has chicken pox. So if everyone in your house is irritated and your tree looks like it has chicken pox, you are doing it right. I know Piper will be like sitting at her house being like, Miss Eden, I hate this noise. But guess what, you guys? It's a video. You can turn it down and then you only have to hear your own stippling. Or you can crank it up and be like, it's like Miss Eden's right here, stippling with me. I miss her so much. I'm gonna send her a cake in the mail. Because I know that's what you guys say when you're home all day. And right about now, you're probably like, Miss Eden, have you lost the plot? What are you doing? Why do I have a chickenpox tree? And that's very understandable. Because this doesn't look like much yet. Here's where things are about to get really wild. We're going to grab that dark green pencil that we've got, and we're gonna fill in those white spaces with green. So I don't know if ever you remember, but I told you when we were learning about color theory that painters had invented camouflage for the military. Which I always think is a neat fact, because a lot of times we think like the military and artists are opposites, but I think we can learn anything from anyone. Like every person you meet, no matter what they do, is going to have something they know that you don't, and they can show you and teach you. So the way that camouflage works is that our eyes are not that great, okay? They're not like eagle eyes. They don't really see super tiny details. When things get further away from us, they tend to blend together because our eyes are not so great. What our eyes do is they look for contrast, so changes in things, right? We got light yellow, darker green, and that shows us the edge of the object. That's why things in real life don't have outlines around them, but we can still see them. And what camouflage does is you put blobs of different colors and different values all over yourself. And then when you're a little ways away among trees or plants or sand, the eye can't see the contrast anymore because you've broken your big human shape up into lots of little blobby shapes or like pixel shapes. And your eye won't separate them from what's around you. So you can hide. Of course, your face is still a problem, but you know, we do what we can. You wear a hat and keep your head down, right? So that's what we're using right now. We're using the way our eyes work to create brown. Because remember when we mix complementary colors like red and green, they always make brown. They make a neutral. If it's purple and yellow, it might be more gray. So what we're using is the fact that your eyes will stop seeing the separation between these two colors. So go ahead and grab your paper and hold it all the way out at the end of your arm, a little bit further away. And what color does it look? Does it look brown? If it looks really red, or if it looks really green, you're gonna want to add more of the other color. If it's looking really green, I'm gonna add more red. If it looks really red, I'm gonna add more green. But if it's looking pretty brown to you, good job. And I think it looks reasonably brown on my computer. And if you like this style of mixing colors by putting them next door to each other instead of on top of each other, there is an artist named George Seurat, S-E-U-R-A-T, who worked a lot with this kind of style. It's called pointillism because he was using points, little dots, right? So I'm going back into my green a little bit. So basically, the smaller your dots are, the closer they are together, the more your eye is gonna mix that color. And the reason I just kind of like to use this on the tree too is because we know with our atmospheric perspective, things that are closer have more contrast and more detail, right? So doing this technique on the tree up front gives it a lot of texture. And then we used our blending back here. So this looks really smooth, not a lot of detail, and this looks really textured, and that gives us more of that sense of distance, of space. We have a very defined background, middle ground, foreground, even more foreground now. So now we're gonna think about our light source, and we're gonna do this again. This kind of mixing is called optical mixing. The word optical is for your eye, because the mixing doesn't happen on the paper, it happens in your eyeball. It's kind of cool. All right, in a way it's an optical illusion. So now we're gonna use both your greens, your blue and your yellow. And you're gonna be like, Miss Eden, I don't want to stipple again. And that's okay, student, I understand, me neither. So we're not gonna, what we're gonna do instead is we're gonna draw kind of ovals, sloppy ovals, they're good. So we're thinking about our sun, our light source, right? And it's over here. So on this half of the tree, I'm gonna kind of slice it diagonally. I'm just gonna kind of make big sloppy ovals all over the place. And when I get to the middle, I'm gonna stop. Yeah, not so bad as stippling, much looser. On the other side, now it's like they have yellow chicken pox. Kusama Yoyoi would love it. I'm gonna make, where Yoyo Kusama? I'm gonna make yellow. This isn't yellow, this is blue. Get it together, Miss Eden. I'm gonna make blue ovals all over the place. And I'm even gonna make some blue over onto the yellow side, but like further apart. Maybe smaller, just a little. Maybe I'll do like a little yellow over here. Now I'm gonna take my green. I'm using my light green here, and I'm gonna go and make ovals in those white spaces between my yellow ovals. We're almost done. And that's a beautiful, beautiful landscape. Mom's gonna put it on the fridge. Or maybe your dad will hang it in his workshop, or your chicken will lay an egg on it in their coop. I don't know. Something's gonna happen. It's gonna be beautiful. Maybe you'll save it in your sketchbook. And someday when you're old and gray, you'll open it up and you'll be like, I remember when we couldn't go to school and I had to watch Miss Eden teach me on the internet. And it was terrible. Once you've kind of gone a little more than halfway across with your light green, go in with your dark green on the other side. So here what we're doing is we're using color, right? We have a warm and cool color, so we're using our color temperature. Our yellow is warm, it's close to the sun is warm. The blue is cool, it's on the shadow side of the tree. Shadows are cool. And we are adding to the three-dimensional effect of our tree using color temperature as a tool, using value as a tool, because we've used the lighter green on the side that's being hit by the sun. So it's getting more light, it's lighter. We're using our darker green in the shadow. It's getting less light, it's darker. So that you can see There are so many decisions that go into making a really rich, satisfying picture. And you also learned 5 new ways to use your colored pencils to make things that look really, really nice. And I can't wait to see how you guys are going to use that in your artist journals as we continue in the last 3 weeks of school here. I'm going to add some little teeny accents with my dark pencil, and I'm just, you can see I'm scribbling. I'm not being too precise, too fancy with it. So we got this beautiful scene, and we used solid coloring, a gradient, layering, blending, and optical mixing with our colored pencils to create just a nice little 3-dimensional landscape. We'll check it to make sure we don't forget anything. Looks pretty good. I don't know, I think this tree maybe looks a little bit better than this one, but I'm gonna be a perfectionist and hit the bottom of the tree with the colored pencil again. Right. Whew. But this has been a long one, I know. Thank you for hanging in there with me. If you watched this in pieces, you're probably smart. I still have plans for more videos to come on drawing bodies, definitely, and getting to the 3-dimensional head. I know I still haven't gotten there with you and how to shade it, but you know, we still got time, and now we got the tech set up, we're plugging away. So if you have any more questions about colored pencil, if you run into any problems, go ahead and leave a comment. I will check the comments and answer them, or you know how to get a hold of me on Instagram, email, and our Google Classroom. So like I said, don't hesitate to reach out. I love hearing from you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.